Good evening, I'm Pinky Webb. Tonight we ask the questions, we tackle the issues, we clarify matters, and we get on point. Shame on you. The scathing review from President Bongbong Marcos aimed at officials who allegedly used flood control projects for corruption. The remark came during his fourth State of the Nation address, where he also took a swipe at Villar-owned companies. But while the president tackled several issues in his hour-long speech, he made no mention of some of the controversial matters, including the House's impeachment of Vice President Sara Duterte and the ICC arrest of her father and his predecessor. Let's get on point with former Senate President Franklin Drilon. Senator Drilon, good to see you. It's been a little, a while.
Thank you very much for having me. It's raining cats and dogs outside, but I'm here with you.
I've been stuck in the studio for a number of hours. So what was your reaction on the president's speech? How did you find it?
Well, what was the most uploaded portion of the speech when he said, "Mahiya naman kayo," as you have said, "Mahiya naman kayo." What does that indicate? To me, people are tired of corruption, and that's why they uploaded long when the president said, referring to the corrupt officials, "Mahiya naman kayo." That only shows, unfortunately, and I'll say this, marami doon sa napupalakpak, tinatabaan din eh. So
nung sinasabi niyang mahiya naman kayo, he was addressing it to the lawmakers.
Well, no. He was addressing it to those who are corrupt, engaging in corrupt practices.
Pero sabi niyo po kanina.
Sabi ko, baka may tinatabaan din no. No, but anyway, going back, what I thought the speech should have concentrated on is exacting accountability from our government officials and weave everything there. The pork barrel, the insertions, use of confidential funds, etc., etc.
So perfect, actually.
So, then as a means of communication, then you communicate to the people that this is the problem that we face and this is the problem which I intend to solve in the next 3 years or to at least minimize, and you judge me on the basis of this. But the way it was structured, there was something kind of, 15, 20 subjects totally unrelated to each other. There is no common thread. That is my criticism. But otherwise, he touched on every subject, too many subjects without a common theme. That's why I was saying.
So you thought he was jumping from one issue to another? Okay.
Yes, he was jumping from one point to the other without correlating. Yes, without tying it. So, I get confused, so you jump from one topic to the other. That's why I keep on repeating. The most uploaded portion, when he said, "Mahiya naman kayo," what does that indicate? It indicates that the people are really looking for the leadership of the president in order to address a basic issue, corruption. Yes, so you have insertions, you have flood control, and all of these issues can be tied up to the corruption that we see in our country today.
For those who might have missed it, we're going to play that thought of the president. Let's go ahead and do that.
Nag-inspeksyon ako sa naging epekto ng habagat ng bagyong Krising, Dante at Emong. Kitang-kita ko na maraming proyekto para sa flood control ay palpak at gumuho. At yung iba, guni-guni lang. Huwag na po tayo magkunwari. Alam naman ng buong madla na nagkakaraket sa mga proyekto. Kaya sa mga nakikipagsabuatan upang kunin ang pondo ng bayan at nakawin ang kinabukasan ng ating mga mamamayan, mahiya naman kayo sa inyong kapwa Pilipino. Mahiya naman kayo sa mga kabahayan nating naanod o nalubog sa mga pagbaha. Mahiya naman kayo, lalo sa mga anak natin na magmamana sa mga utang na ginawa ninyo nang binulsan nyo lang ang pera.
Senator Drilon, of course, that was one of the, as you said, and as we saw, the most applauded part. Why do you think it was the most applauded part by members of both houses of Congress?
Well, the television cameras were there. So, but I can assure you, Pinky, that it was not only in the halls of Congress. In the living rooms of people watching it, ay salamat at napansin din.
Seriously, yes, that's what happened. I guess what I'm trying to say, Senator, is that pag sinabi po ng Pangulo, wag na tayong maglokohan, alam naman nating meron ditong for the boys, etc. And then he mentioned that I want an audit. I want the DPWH to look into this, send me a report, at kakasuhan. And then he said, kakasuhan kahit mga kontraktor. Doon po siya napunta. Yung posibleng kasuhan ay kontraktor. Let's just be frank here. Will this include lawmakers? Should this include lawmakers?
He said contractors. If there are lawmakers who are contractors, then they are included in that general classification. And you see, and I'm glad the President mentioned it, but the biggest issue are the insertions in the budget, which affects our infrastructure program, our flood control program. They're affected by the insertions. You heard the President say, he said the General Appropriations Act must conform to the National Expenditure Program. What does this mean? Those insertions in the budget which do not conform with the economic plan of the economic managers will be vetoed. We wait for it and see whether they really do it. Because
in fact, he went as far as saying that I will even just go for a reenacted budget.
That's correct.
Yeah.
But what he's saying, in effect, I will veto everything and work with the reenacted budget. The economic managers will frown at that. You are never, they're never comfortable correctly with the reenacted budget. But the president has the power of a line item veto. You know, in this budget today, in this National Appropriations Act in 2025, the president has lost control of the economic program crafted by his economic managers. Pinky, our economic program, you'll find in the National Expenditure Program. So when you mangle the National Expenditure Program, the economic plan is all shut. Now, the president realizes that, so he said, the General Appropriations Act must conform to the National Expenditure Program.
Yeah.
And he went further, he said he's willing to work with the reenacted budget. Just two matters. Number one, you know, when the National Expenditure Program is crafted, the congressmen and the senators already include their budget.
Siguro, Senator, so it's very clear to those who are not in politics, who's not been a lawmaker, who could be possibly new to this, just share with us how this actually happens. Well, let's go basic. The budget really comes from government. Ibig sabihin, the SWD, the DOH, etc. However, sir, please correct me if I'm wrong. People like you, when you were a senator or a congressman, whoever congressman, asks the DOH to include
the DPWH, you mean?
The DPWH, for example, to include my area, pagawa naman to ng kalsada, pagawa naman po ito ng bridge. Ganun ho yun, di ba?
That's correct, but let me tweak it a little bit.
Okay.
You know, the economic managers, they have a national expenditure program. They will say 1 million of our funds should be used to build this coffee cup, all right? Because this will contribute to our progress. 20% of our national expenditure program would contribute to the growth of the economy. Public spending, 20% would come from public spending. But those public spending must be spent to useful projects. So now I repeat, you allocate 1 million for this cup. Pagdating sa Kongreso, Sasabihin ng Kongreso, hindi maganda yan, kailangan mo gumawa ng plato. So your program, your economic program is all shot because the interference of the legislature, on the theory that you did not consider my needs. Correct also, but it is...
Can you give me a practical example?
Okay.
Not something that really happens.
Okay, something that really happens. The economic managers will say, we have to build a bridge across this river because this will facilitate the flow of goods between
Point A to point B.
Point
Okay.
A to point B, from the market to the farm. Now, so it really is necessary in order to improve the lives of the farmers there. When the congressman looks at it, or when the senator looks at it, they would say, my contractor says we can make better money if we make it a road, a farm-to-market road. So instead of having a bridge, you would have a farm-to-market road to nowhere. So the economic activity and the economic benefit, which would have resulted in putting up the bridge, is lost. That is when, that seem to put it very simply, is the effect of the interference simply based on greed or...
But why would, Senator, let's say galing po yun sa DPWH, kailangan ko gumawa ng bridge dito, point A to point B. From my understanding,
Yes,
and then you're
yes.
saying, pero sabi ni Congressman/Senator Cruz, yun na lang palagi Cruz, na hindi tayo dapat bridge dyan, dapat kalye tayo. Ganun
Yes,
ba? Kalye
yes,
tayo.
yes.
Bakit ho? Kasi mas mahalang...
ang contractor niya pwede sa farm-to-market road, hindi pwede sa...
So here's my question, Senator. Bakit naman, why would the DPWH agree to that, acquiesce or say yes to that? Why can't the DPWH say, no, let's do a farm-to-market road, pinag-aralan namin yan?
Well, because in the bicameral conference committee, you will never know that the project disappears until the General Appropriations Act is presented. That is where I come to a second point. There must be a way by which we can make public the deliberations in the bicameral conference committee report insofar as the budget is concerned. Because, when negotiations are done on a basis that the public is not informed, is kept in the dark, you'll never know what will happen there.
We don't.
It's a challenge. How to make it public? Because, you are talking about the budget being finished by both houses on the 15th of December, and the budget is supposed to be signed by the President by the end of the month of December. So you have a 1 foot thick document to examine. There's simply no way by which you can give it a rational examination. So what happens is that, nakagawa na yung naging habit na yung small committee, so-called, the committee between the two chairs of the Appropriation and the Finance Committee of the Senate, and their staff would work on the budget and then present it to the bicameral conference for ratification. In that process, then you can imagine what happens. It is a challenge, I must admit. There are no quick solutions. The solution that is being proposed by the President is one very obvious. I will veto any item that comes out of the General Appropriations Act which is not
Part
in the
of the
National
NEP.
Expenditure Program. That's a sweeping statement. Let's see what happens.
But that still allows lawmakers to talk to agencies and say, I need this for my particular area of concern.
Before the budget is crafted.
Yes, before the NEP is even completed.
That's correct.
Tama ho.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
so as Senator Drilon can say, DPWH, kailangan ko ng ganito sa Iloilo, ganyan. Habang ginagawa ang NEP, nakikipag-usap po ang mga congressman at senador sa mga sekretary o sa Pangulo para maisama ang
Project niya.
project niya doon. Okay.
Well, yes, that happens, but you cannot be perfect in this world. The thing is, the opportunity for an abuse in that kind of a system is more limited than a situation where pagdating sa BICAM, bahala kami sa buhay namin, will insert all kinds of things.
Because that's where I wanted to go. So that report by Politico.com, where allegedly there was an insertion of 142 billion pesos by, again, allegedly Senate President Chis Escudero. How does that actually happen? Kasi ang alam lang po natin, supposed to be, paano ho ini-insert yun?
Well,
ano ho ang usapan sa
First,
loob?
I do not know that for a fact, that
Yes.
in fact there is an insertion of 104. I do not know it for a fact. So I'll answer your question on a theoretical basis. What happened was that in the bicameral conference committee, in the discussion, this was the, may hatian dyan eh. Oh, sige, ito yung amin, ito yung sa inyo.
Ano yung hatian? Anong
Ibig
hinahati
sabihin,
doon?
I'm sorry. Ibig sabihin, this is the budget allocated for projects of the senators and the congressmen. So a certain portion, and again, Pinky, if you assume good faith, if you assume honesty, integrity, sometimes it's really necessary. Okay. I'll be open. I built roads, I built the Esplanade, I built convention centers in Iloilo. This all came from my pork barrel. But I'm open about it. Oh, here's my pork barrel. So people know what you did. So it's a question of, talagang it's that easy. As I repeat, Pinky, I do not know the 142 billion for a fact that has been inserted. But you asked me how it could be done. It could be done in the BICAM.
Okay, fair enough. Because in interviews a while ago, even Senator Loren Legarda and Senator Senator Amy Marcos said to the effect, sir, that, yeah, I know about that. That's why I did not sign the budget. That was Senator Amy Marcos. Senator Loren Legarda, however, was saying that even before the NEP, sabi po niya, dapat pag-usapan natin itong alleged insertion. So, Senator, after all that hearings in the House with the cabinet secretaries, after all that hearings in the Senate with the cabinet secretaries, pagdating po ng BICAM, ganun na lang po, magkaka-magic, everything is thrown to the wind, ganun lang ho ba yun?
Yes.
Anything can change?
Yes. So, there are two kinds of insertions. The insertions done before the National Expenditure Program is crafted, and the second insertion is in the General Appropriations Bill.
GAB, yeah.
So, dalawang insertions yan. So, tanong mo, ganun na lang ba yun? Well, there are certain limitations, but it can be ways of going around it. For example, the economic managers and our lenders would require that our deficit on the basis of the budget should not exceed a certain percentage of our revenue. In other words, there are such standards. Yeah. Say, the borrowing should not exceed 60% of the gross domestic product. There's that rule now. So when you insert so much in the budget, which projects are not covered by a specific revenue program, then you borrow money. And when you borrow money, the deficit goes up. Yeah. So those are limitations. But there are ways of going around it. Example, in this particular budget, and this is an open book, the items which were included there, which are sourced from revenues, were removed and placed in the unfunded portion of the program. So there was a lot of leeway on the, so the deficit was not breached because the projects that were supposed to be funded were moved to the unfunded portion of the budget. So you see,
pending revenue collection.
Sorry?
Pending revenue collection.
Pending revenue collection, which we know that we're working on a deficit, so it will never come.
Yeah. Is it fair or right to say there is still pork? I mean, from, how did we used to call it, Senator? Countrywide Development Fund, pork barrel, DAP.
Yes, lahat yan.
Lahat. pero lahat po siya pork. Plain and simple.
Lahat po siya pork. That's correct, yes.
Hanggang ngayon po, may pork.
Yes.
Okay. May pork pa.
Yes,
All right.
my pork
Okay.
barrel.
So
It's
let's
called
just
in another insertions.
yeah, let's not just say walang pork because was it better, di ba before?
Okay, let me tell you why was it pork before? Cold pork. Okay, it was cold pork because in the budget there's a lump sum appropriation.
Yes, that's what I was going to talk
Yes.
about. 200, was it?
Whatever, I don't know, recall anymore. There was a lump sum of, let's say 100 billion, whatever. Okay, that is there. And then in the course of the year, the legislators would say, you know, I have a project, fund it out of the lump sum fund. Okay, so it's funded out of that. The Supreme Court said, no, that is void because there is no deliberation as to the necessity of that project, and you pass on the authority to the legislator and to the DPWH or to the other agency. So the court rendered that void. So what happened afterwards? Instead of a lump sum of 200 million or whatever, you know, now you'll find 200 items, 1 million each.
Ganun din. Kasi naka-line item na.
It's a line item. So it complies with the Supreme Court decision.
Right.
But to expand the pie, we resorted, I was no longer there, they resorted to transferring the funded projects to the unfunded portion of the budget so that it does not breach the deficit, which is the standard for for the budget.
Would televising the BICAM, because sabi mo nga, ang kapal ng papel na yun, and I will not even pretend that I would understand everything there, but televising it to any member.
Televising it, okay. What you watch out for is when the budget came from Malacanang, the item for this bug is 1 million. After it goes through Congress, it becomes 10 million.
Yeah.
That is what you can easily catch. But when this 1 million already includes the commission, etc., you can never catch it. So
Of course.
But
at least you're going to catch the difference from 1 million to 10 million. We have to start somewhere.
You have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And making it public, making the debates public is one way. I'm not saying it's not be all and end all.
Yeah.
But certainly it will be a big start to open it up to public debate, to have the private sector participate in the crafting of the budget.
Especially those who are experts on that. All right, we just need to take a very short break. We'll continue our discussion with former Senate President Franklin Drilon. When we return, stay tuned. This is On Point. Welcome back. Still with us, former Senate President Franklin Drilon. So the other point that the president made was when he said that he will return any proposed general appropriations bill that is not fully aligned with the National Expenditure Program or NEP. Senator, do you think that when the president says that and says, I don't even mind if I have to work with a reenacted budget, will this bring some sort of concern or fear to the lawmakers who want to tinker around with the National Expenditure Program?
I would not advise that you we go on a reenacted 2025 budget, because the present budget, if you reenact it in 2026, you'll have the same baggage and the same insertions that this budget is famous for. So I would recommend that those items which are not in the National Expenditure Program, which were inserted, the president said, I will veto in effect.
Yeah.
And that's a challenge,
Yeah.
veto it.
I guess ang tanong ko, Senator, do you think matatakot na yung mga legislators na nag-i-insert?
I don't know. I cannot answer that question.
But at least it's a warning.
Let me correct you. The insertion itself is not illegal. It could be immoral, but it's not illegal. Why? Because crafting the budget is basically the function of Congress,
Right.
and Congress is composed of legislators. So when you assert you include 100 million because I need this
Yeah.
bridge, there's nothing wrong with that. It is when you execute the 100 million and get all the commissions that the illegality takes place.
Here's the thing. Let's talk about what the president said about he wants an analysis, he wants documents of flood control projects that were done the past 3 years.
Yes.
I saw an interview earlier, just very quickly, that Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin was even saying that this can even go before or even way before the 3 years that the president has spent as president. Meaning, pwede rin pong tingnan yung mga 2020, before 2022, 2021, I guess during the time of President Duterte. How feasible is it really to look into these documents, even in the last 3 years? Let's just say that. And look at what was done. Meron ba talagang, yung Ghost Project, madali po yun makita. Pero yung to actually analyze amount and vis-a-vis quality, dimension, specifications.
It's given the magnitudes and the diversity, extremely difficult to do it because, there is simply, for example, okay, dredging, which is part of the flood control program. I tell you, Pinky, who will count the number of cubic meters of dredged waste has been made?
It's impossible.
Impossible. So that is answer your question. To a certain extent, you may be able to do it, but it is very difficult. It's very cumbersome. And I'm citing as the example the flood control program, dredging. In my case, when I needed to dredge, I asked DPWH, you buy a dredging machine, so it is there for the next several years, doing nothing except to dredge. Yeah. So in fact, that was adopted by DPWH. So there are ways. It's not easy, but you have to start somewhere. I agree with the president, and I hope the president will have the the wherewithal to veto. He will be under a lot of political pressure, mind you. But he should be able to deliver on his promise, which was the most applauded portion of his speech.
What are you hoping for, I guess, in the next year? This year till the next SONA, what do you want to see happen within this next year?
Within this next year, to start with, by January of next year, I want to see the items vetoed. That's the start. That's the start. So that you do not have to audit the execution. You prevent the item. Another example: confidential and intelligence funds. Well, the moment you have an appropriation classified as confidential, intelligence, there is no more audit. It's impossible. We have the closed envelope system. So what is the remedy to me? The remedy is allow confidential and intelligence funds only for those agencies which gather intelligence. That's as simple as that. Why
Limit it to them.
Yeah?
Just limit it to them.
Limit it to those who are in charge of intelligence gathering, like intelligence service.
That's been a call too. That's been a call of some people. Iwan na lang dun sa mga talagang kumakalap ng intelligence.
Correct. Yeah. And that way you minimize the corruption.
Okay, so that would be what? Of course, would you still include the office of the president?
Yes, the office of the president.
What about the office of the vice president? No more.
No more.
But di ba pati mga LGU may mga confidential and intelligence funds,
Well,
Senator?
because of fiscal autonomy. They have the power to appropriate the budget, but you can pass a law which says there shall be no confidential and intelligence funds in the local government budget.
That's part of the DILG code.
Yes,
I see.
yes.
So because they're given autonomy,
Yes.
they can put an amount to their confidential.
Yes.
So dapat i-limit dun sa at least agencies that actually really gather sensitive
Yes.
information.
That's correct.
All right.
Yes.
And then, aside from that, maybe one more you'd like to see in the next year, aside from line veto.
Well, yeah, line item veto, exercise it forcefully. Do not allow what happened to this budget this year when it was mangled and you could no longer recognize. If you're the president, the cabinet, the secretaries could no longer recognize what happened to my requested appropriation, which was approved by the cabinet.
Yeah.
No longer there.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, and it's good to see you, former Senate President Franklin Drilon. I hope to see you and speak to you again.
Yes,
Thank
when
you.
I get here, I get into trouble with my friends in Congress.
Thank you. Well, maraming salamat po sa inyong oras. We're going to be taking another breather. When we return, we'll speak with former Press Secretary Trixie Cruz-Angeles. You're watching On Point. Welcome back. We continue our deep dive into President Bongbong Marcos' fourth SONA. Joining us now, former Press Secretary Trixie Cruz-Angeles. Attorney Trixie.
Hi.
Hi, good evening. Thank you again for coming back. Bumalik ka,
Yes,
di ba?
thank you, yes.
Attorney, what did you think of the speech? An unbiased, you were watching it and you weren't the former press secretary.
Well, to be fair, no, when I was still press secretary at the time of the first SONA, the president had his own team for that. So what I was handling was mostly communications, PTV, and all that. So, but beyond that, well, the president likes to have more control over his own speeches. Normally, that's his take. And in this case, parang medyo yung pacing was a bit, how do you call this? It could have been better. Could have been a tighter speech. There's too much emphasis on certain things like yung palaro and all that. I felt that was overdrawn, and then there was appalling lack of detail in some things. They wanted to like more land distribution, but I'm not sure but the president's record on the land distribution seems a bit spotty from 2022, 2023, and 2024. But recently, they managed to speed up a little. So it's a little ambitious for him to be talking about wiping out and finishing off all the land distribution. So we don't also have very much background on that one, at least in the SONA. It could have been better in many instances because the president is known for being for delivering very tight speeches. Well, at least before. So now I felt that it was a bit rushed.
Why do you think it was not tight? That I'm not sure if it was Senator Drilon. Parang it moved from one topic to another
Yes,
without
without transitions.
Parang ganon.
I think that what they did was they put everything in there and then they edited. So the transitions definitely will suffer. There probably supposedly supposed to be comments on raging controversies, but it looked like most of them have been removed. So, I had not noticed very much on any recent controversies.
Okay.
It was a very sanitized SONA.
Okay. It's been much talked about the president saying mahiya naman kayo, mahiya kayo sa kapwa. Doon talaga natuwa ang maraming, a lot of people in the Batasan complex. And I'm sure, I guess I would say, at least here in the studio, when I had my two guests, also they were quite surprised and pumalakpak kahit po si Malu Tikia. Sabi ka niya, baka maging na siya. I don't know what exact word she said, but that was very telling because nga kakagaling lang natin sa baha. That's number one. And number two, of course, yung NEP, sabi niya, para bang huwag nyo nang galawin ng NEP. Kapag maglagay na naman kayo ng kahit na anong insertion dito, I will line veto it or I will work with a reenacted budget. That came towards the latter part.
And that came across strong, to be fair, and completely unbiased. These are very crowd-pleasing statements, especially yung NEP. Flood control, I think, was expected because we had come from flood, or still are experiencing it. And even the president's performance in the last calamity has left people a little bit disillusioned. People weren't already expecting much since the last time na fact-check siya with 5,500 flood control projects. So there wasn't much to be expected. Plus, he mentioned some rather embarrassing words like, wala na tayong magagawa dyan. So this is his comeback. No? Mahiya naman kayo, he's going to focus on this because this really has proven to be an embarrassment and continues to haunt him. So yun, I think, dapat lang, and I welcome it. It's a good comeback. The other one, medyo mas, mas a little surprising.
Yung sa NEP?
Yes.
Yung sa budget. Why do you say that?
Well, no, not surprising. Considering that the rumors are that Speaker Martin Romualdez was not his bet for House Speaker, supposedly. Assuming that the rumors are true, for the moment, assuming that the rumors are true, that he did not back the candidacy of Speaker Martin Romualdez, then this would have been very timely. It's a reminder that 2024 and 2025 embarrassments in their budgets cannot be
Will
repeated.
not happen again.
Well, or
okay.
at least they will not be able to take it politically anymore.
Yeah.
It's too embarrassing. It makes the president look weak. It makes Congress look excessive and greedy and all that. And it all goes back to the president's administration. So this one was welcome, but also under the category of dapat lang.
Expected. Actually, even the flood control projects. I would say that personally, I was also hoping for, I was pretty sure that the president would mention it. But how, by which he mentioned it and the words he used to find or exact accountability from those people who may be guilty of this was telling. Iba kasi yung pagkasabi niya dito sa warning niya. Tsaka, babalikan ko itong nakaraang mga taon, hihingin ko yung mga dokumento, I will have them publish this, and we will file charges against those responsible. Sabi nga niya sa mga ghost projects. Ano ba sabi niya? Guni-guni ata yung ginamit niyang salita. Guni-guning mga proyekto.
Correct. Well, again, on point, he was using the right words, but there are certain things that come to mind. Are you going to prosecute really those that were in your administration? Are you going after the previous administration? Again, because this administration has been characterized as going after the previous one, and it hasn't made the voters very happy.
Would it be, would it leave a bad taste in the mouth kung pati yung previous administration, for example, the DPWH secretary in the previous administration also be looked into? Or are you saying they're just better off looking at their last 3 years?
I think that if they go after the last administration first, it will color whatever achievements they will make in that regard later on. So, unahin niya muna yung dito. We're not saying don't go after the previous one. But the ones that were in his immediate control, these happened under his watch. He should be angrier because they made him look bad. And especially since these projects were executed under his branch. This is the executive branch. He can't just simply say, pass it off and say, oh, the legislature, I'm watching you, I'm looking at you. This was implemented under his own branch of government.
Yeah. Do you think there will be some fruitful conclusions or findings regarding this?
The president does not have a good track record of keeping promises, whether it's campaign promises or SONAs from 2022 to the present. In fact, for 2024, even Vera Files was saying out of so many promises, over 160 promises, he complied with only about 50% or even less. So this one, if the president really follows through on these two, then sige, at least you'll see that people won't be as heavy-hearted at him in the future. But yeah, it's for me, the timing is really bad. He could have said this at the time when, after announcing 5,500 flood control projects, binaha tayo. And then there were so many excuses like, hindi naman yan kasali, the projects weren't in Metro Manila and all that. These are exactly the excuses that I think he's pointing to in this SONA. Why so late? Why waking up only now? So again, my guess here is that this is really criticism against the legislature and for the budget yet again. It's like a warning, don't do this again.
What were other siguro highlights that you saw during the President's State of the Nation address?
Those were really kasi outstanding. They kind of overshadow everything. Well, the promise to distribute land is a good one, and to finish that off, I think that's I like that one. But again, he does not have a good track record for keeping promises, and his land distribution program is so much window dressing. His own the Department of Agrarian Reform was reporting as late as 2024 that they were so far behind in schedule because of funding issues. So my guess is that this is a hope that they can finish off the land distribution, but this will also depend largely on the House and the Senate.
What did you think of how the President started his State of the Nation address, basically saying that during the last elections, of course not in these words, parang nabigo yung pamahalaan, so we have to work harder and we have to work faster. I think to my previous guests, they were saying there was at least humility in the President and even saying that nakikinig ako sa inyo, kaya't ito ang mga gagawin ko.
This sounds more like the Bongbong Marcos that I know. This is no longer simply President Marcos. This is the Bongbong Marcos we knew as senator. This is really how he is. My worry is that it's 3 years since we saw this person last. The last time we saw him was during the campaign. The sincerity was there, and I have no doubt about the sincerity of that statement. We have to do better. He does really say that. Those are his words. My worry is that it may be too late to do much better. It felt to me that he realizes that 2024 and 25, he kind of lost control, particularly over the very people that he is speaking to, the very houses that he is speaking to. It should be a partnership. The executive and the legislative should be working very closely. But my question is, did he take stock of how many laws that he classified as priority were actually passed? So that's another thing that I think that he's saying without actually saying.
Was there a lack of maybe LEDAC meetings to be able to?
I don't think they lacked in the LEDAC meetings. I think it really was just a matter of priorities for the House. You see how quickly they could move on impeachment, but not as quickly on the legislative.
So you're saying that they were a little bit more independent,
I would say it was a lot independent, yes. It needs more, and I think it was also something like a wake-up call. I think the messaging here, the undercurrent of the President was, okay, you're still the Congress that I need to work with, but you have to shape up. So this is his way of saying that. He's not the type, I think, who would embarrass people. So this is him already saying that you're the ones responsible for the 2024-25 budgets, and whatever non-accomplishments we have is a lot related to the budgetary non-allocations.
Let's talk about water. When you talked
yes.
about water, marami kaming natatanggap na reklamo na hindi man lang daw umaabot ang tubig sa kanilang mga gripo. He even gave a number of those suffering from water issues.
Yes.
I can't find it right now, but I think it's about 6 million consumers affected by the water issue. Sa lawak ng reklamo, lampas 6 na milyong consumers sa buong bansa ang kasalukuyang naapektuhan. Then he goes to say that LUA will look into this and that local government units and their partner water companies will have to be investigated. There have been numerous complaints.
Yes.
Let's just be direct with Prime Water, Villar-owned. How do you see this panning through?
Well, of course, we think politics right away because the President was not happy. We know that with the Villar support of the Vice President. And that was not a secret, nor was it a secret about his surprise with regard to the Villars. And then a lot of talk had already begun, even before SONA, about investigating, in particular, Prime Water. We're not saying that Prime Water should not be investigated. The complaints are real, we can acknowledge that. But to single them out might be a little how we can smell the politics coming from a mile off.
But how does it sit well that there's so many complaints for a basic necessity that is actually owned by a politician?
The
And two
water
of
cannot
them
be
in
owned,
the
di ba?
Senate? Okay.
Well, for me, that's absolutely right. And the complaints, like I said, are real. And the service is, well, there's a lot there. My concern is to single out that particular company when the truth is these contracts are all the same, including those that are servicing Metro Manila. So my point is that I like it. By all means, let's go after this company.
All, you mean?
But let's go after everybody and sit down and have a look at these contracts, because you know very well what those contracts look like.
Okay, not
They're
just
very-
zero in on prime water, basically.
Yes.
All right, we have a few minutes left. Were you at all surprised that there was no talk regarding the impeachment, the Supreme Court decision, or the ICC?
I think that those were included in the original, but are part of those that were taken out. I think for as far as the president is concerned, these are hugely uncomfortable conversations that he does not like to have. And it's in his character to remove them. He has already made statements. Malacanang made a statement on the impeachment. They have, in fact, stopped speaking about the ICC except through Undersecretary Claire Castro. And beyond that, the president is already mum for several months now. So I don't think that we should be expecting anything more.
You didn't think he would say, anything about it?
Knowing the
Yeah.
character, he would not. No.
Okay. And I guess, as I asked former Senate President Franklin Drilon, what's to look forward to in the next year until the next State of the Nation address?
Well, I think that given the SONA, if the president will maintain the tone, then we might be able to expect changes. I'm not holding my breath. But because the track record of the president in the past 3 years has been very bad in fulfilling promises. But if he fulfills, let's say, at least yung land distribution, that's significant. That's going to help. No matter how insignificant it may seem, I like the idea of health and sports being mentioned in the SONA. His father, of course, palarong pambansa, and all of these had made such significant strides in that regard. It would be a crying shame if his own administration lacked in that one. I expected more from education, but sige na nga for the moment. For me, like with everybody else, let's see na lang how he's going to fulfill all of these.
All right. Former Press Secretary Trixie Cruz-Angeles, pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your
Likewise.
time, and I'm sure I'll speak to you again. And that's On Point. Join us again tomorrow, 7:30 p.m. here on BNC, the Billionario News Channel. I'm Pinky Webb. Thank you for watching.